I'll talk about open access only to clarify a few points, or maybe my perspective. The tariff structure in India is a social tariff structure. It's unlike the financial principles of cost recovery. The high-end consumers actually cost less per unit. And that's the way, for example, Singapore or Hong Kong works. But India is a social economy and therefore social tariff structure. I don't think it is a cross-subsidy. A typical DISCOM has a basket of power purchase and has got a very low cost of power purchase, PPAs, then the marginal ones are very high. So if you look at the lowest cost purchased, lowest cost PPA, if you stack up and assign it to the lowest, low-end consumers, it's a fully cost-reflective tariff in a way. So if we treat this as the basis of the skewed tariff structure, that's the first point I thought I'll make, and this is what happened when in Delhi there was a discussion about what should be the minimum tariff in Delhi. We don't have agriculture. This was one principle, that we have NTPC supplying power at 2 rupees. So let that be one cost for the poor guys. But if you look at now how to reduce this gap, open access, I think, is a solution. If only DISCOMs agreed or the regulators agreed that the cross-subsidy surcharge, which will be applicable on the open access consumers, would actually should keep on, the threshold should keep going down also, is, let's say, 20% lower than what it is actually. And that shortfall was to be allowed as a true-up to be recovered in the next year tariff from the remaining consumers. You will automatically see that every year the tariff structure will become more flat. So, to say that open access will solve the cross-subsidy problem only if the cross-subsidy charged to the open access consumers is less than what it is actually in the tariff structure. So that's the first point I thought I'll make, and in case the regulators can consider this. And other thing is that in any distribution business, the return on the equity or the profits are not on power purchase. I would have been the happiest person when I was running a distribution company that all consumers were to buy power on their own, excluding that the fact that you have certain PPAs, so those could be renegotiated, reallocated, wherever. What we make is only on the equity invested and the loans that have been borrowed for network. We don't borrow for buying power, but we were forced to. So if you really, over a period of time, separate the content and the carriage is what really is the distribution business, and of course customer service would be included in that. And then the distribution companies will really be financially, healthy, because the tariffs are taking care of their investments. And somebody who's supplying power has a separate contract, very transparent. To that extent, I think the beginning can be made by mandatorily, I said this yesterday also, the bills of the consumers must reflect how the tariff is worked out. That should include the fixed charges towards the network cost recovery of loans, return on equity. Then it should include the O&M costs. It should also include the interest on the past losses not paid because the tariffs were not revised. It should then say how much arrears are to be recovered. And maybe 2 rows, if recovered in 3 years, if recovered in 4 years, with interest. Let the consumer be aware of what he's actually consuming, how much he's paying for it, what is the cost of it. Of course, consumer will say these numbers are wrong, but nobody knows today what is this regulatory asset, all recipes or takeaways for some consideration. I think the essential attributes of any distribution reform program within a company needs to take into account 4 or 5 factors. One is that we have a large base of consumers. There are small DISCOMs, large DISCOMs, but the consumer base is large. It's like the entire population. Large number of employees, many customer interface points, so vulnerable to unethical practices. And lastly, very important, is that DISCOM is always a monopoly. So the feeling of being kind of harassed, so the perception stage is very important. So if I'm giving you with my experience as to how we did it in NDPL. We had 5,000 employees, 1 million consumers, so which means 55 million people, 4 million people. So we had a strategy session and said, strategy of the company is to be so and so. Then we said, now measure it. Have a parameterization of your intent. Typically we said, you have a word statement, convert into Excel. So we had some 23, 24 parameters to be chased. And then, I won't tell you the whole story, but in the end, we used to have quality assessments of our company. And we were told that even the lineman of the company knew why he was doing what he was doing. If somebody asks him, why do you go and restore power in 2 hours? What happens if it is 3 hours? He said, no, there is something called customer satisfaction index to which my bonus is linked. Therefore, I have to reduce the cycle time. Then someone says, why do you go to the high-end consumers first and not to the low-end consumers if you had difficulty of time? He says, the high-end consumer gives me more contribution, so I have to also keep my shareholders happy. Now, this is something which is called alignment. If the corporate goals of a DISCOM were to be put into measurable terms and aligned down to the last line, I think things can be in place. These are some of the things that are very important. And the last, I think, will be automation and IT enablement of the entire work process. And without any human intervention, if all the processes can be automated into a seamless sort of a process, I think a lot of issues can be taken care of. Thank you. I don't have much time.